All right, all right, all right. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Keep It Real podcast with your host Nicholas Salter and my dear friend Luke Armstrong. This is our second take because I forgot to turn off the mute button on the first one. But so today we're going to talk about what took place about a week ago, which is a somber topic, but the assassination of political pundit Charlie Kirk on the conservative side. I completely disavow what happened. I don't think that's representative for who we should be, but we're going to get into that more as the episode goes on. But yeah, that's the main subject matter, and I think it's important that we talk about stuff like this because I think the country's kind of going in a bad way in terms of its polarization, and it does have me concerned about our integrity as an American people, to how we can't even have open discourse with one another besides someone trying to take someone else's life because of disagreements that they may have. I disagree with Charlie Kirk on a lot of things, a number of things, but I don't believe he deserved to be assassinated from his daughter or his family. No man deserves that, and no man's family deserves to see that, regardless of how much he disagrees or how much he probably doesn't really respect the black community, black people.
Wow.
At least from some.
I don't know him that well. My default is smile right now. The situation is very serious, but I just understand that I am taking this very seriously. But the camera's on and everything, and I just feel the inherent need to smile. But it is a very somber
It's called
thing.
the Keep It Real podcast. You don't have
I'm keeping it real in my words.
I had to keep it real with the smile, but yeah, it was very fucked. It's hard to witness this. I actually did write down something in my phone for this, maybe to kind of kick off the discussion. But this is where I wrote. I was planning to do like a little clip and kind of upload a short of it, but I thought, me and my say for the full episode, I still might upload a clip. We'll see. I don't know. But I said basically, I want to speak on the assassination of Charlie Kirk that occurred on Wednesday, September 10th. As I am horrified by the act of violence and even more horrified by the discourse among Americans. One side cheers while the other side plans for retaliation. Killing our fellow Americans will not bring about the peaceful country that we are in search of. It will lead us in the opposite direction. As it stands now, we are currently facing the real danger of losing our civil liberties, stemming from the unceasing and increasing acts of violence within this country within these past 4 to 5 years. Not only are we at the risk of losing the right of freedom of speech and civil discourse, but if this violence continues to grow, I anticipate it will become a civil war, which will prompt the government to step in, quell the violence in order to establish order, leading to more bloodshed, authoritarian policies, and resulting in a military state with no peace and no freedom. And right now, I believe it is of utmost importance that we come together in solidarity, not to shift further apart, but otherwise we will lose everything that we have fought for so far as a nation since our conception. And I argue that we cannot lose our democracy and our humanity in this manner. And our leader, Martin Luther King, one of the most important and influential leaders during the Civil Rights era.
Of all time.
Who was also assassinated for advocating for his beliefs. He said the following: "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." Let us remember that we are not our ideologies. We are not our politics. We are human beings. We are one nation, and if we've forgotten this, we have already lost. Don't let the pressure of the times change who we are. We need to stand together and not apart. Yeah. So.
Thanks for looking at me and making me. Oh yeah, let me play out my statement. Oh wait, somebody didn't let me know beforehand.
Well, so I was like, so I thought, but I just wanted to. When this first happened, I was furious because I knew that A, he didn't deserve it, and B, I knew the consequences of what this would be, which would be radical action and polarization taken on both sides of the fence.
I mean, I don't feel like I've seen a lot of conservatives taking radical action, I'll be honest. I thought they would. I thought they would call for a bloodbath. But the most extreme thing the most extreme thing I see them doing is hunting down not literally, just making that clear, taking people's tweets who celebrated and then calling their employers and getting them fired.
Yeah, but I mean that is a form of retaliation. But at the same time, it's my concern is more on. I've seen some comments of people saying like, "Hey, they basically killed the nice conservative. Like they killed the nice guy. They killed like the best, like the most easygoing person out of all this. Now is going to let behind.
I don't know how much
alt-right.
I don't.
People like
they killed the nice guy. I'm sorry. Charlie Kirk was not the nicest of men. He did not deserve to die. To be clear, everything Nick said, I agree with. I agree with it in much more simpler terms, though. The phrase "don't shoot the messenger" is that phrase for a reason. You know what I mean? If you respond, if you take out the guy who's willing to negotiate, there is no negotiation. You know what I mean? I think when they took out the CEO, Luigi, it was more universally praised because it was the understanding that this CEO or whoever it was a person within power, right? And a person who, I feel like there is also the understanding that the people who hoard wealth a lot of the time, at least in general, are seen as the bad people. You know what I mean? On both sides of the fence, you know. For conservatives, it's about the government officials, and you know, and then for the liberals, it's about like CEOs and everything. And regardless of which one you see, though, they see it as corruption, right? And so it was more universally like accepted because he was less well known, and then on top of that,
those in power aren't seen as one of the people, right? And
yeah,
I feel like for the conservatives, they feel like Charlie Kirk was basically.
I agree. I apologize. I'm not trying to interrupt you, but I think he was one of the guys willing to talk. You don't kill one of the guys willing to talk. That's a bad idea.
Yeah.
Because even if he's wrong, I mean, come on, it's a bad idea. You just let him.
You prove that he's wrong in the battlefield of ideas. Right?
Not only that.
If they are bad ideas, then theoretically they should be easily dismantled and disproven, and it's better to do that on the world stage so less people buy into that ideology.
Or just take a knee and wait it out. I mean, freaking, who's that one guy, Steven Crowder?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, he screwed his own life over because he had a fallout with his wife, and it was super public. And then he went absolutely off the rails and got Alex Jones on his podcast, and now you never even hear from his ass again because it's a worthless podcast.
He made a statement on Charlie Kirk stuff too because he's a.
Of course, he made a statement on it. I'm not denying it. You know,
I've been listening a lot more to some more conservative side of like YouTube and podcast stuff like that, trying to get an ear to the ground on what's happening over there on that side. Obviously not happy, but a lot of it is just saying I don't hear really any advocacy for direct violence.
That's what I'm saying.
I feel like some might be implied. Like from Steven Crowder's perspective, he was like, there should be violence, but legal violence against people that are trying to do this kind of stuff. But he even phrased it as where it's like he's like people should be deathly afraid of trying to pull this kind of crap at rallies and stuff like that. Which using the term deathly is like it's kind of like the whole like fuck around and find out kind of thing.
Yeah, but I don't feel like that's a bad perspective. That's kind of like you get what you give.
I think it'd be a worse perspective. Yeah, but at the same time, I also think that's like.
It's definitely not a friendly one. It's definitely. It's kind of like how do you put it? It's like when you put the gun to the head and you technically haven't pulled the trigger, but you're just like do something.
Yeah, it's kind of try me. But I feel like we're not at that point to where everyone's like having guns and like shooting each other down. But I feel like we're almost at that point of like try me. It's almost like one side's kind of waiting for the other side to kind of throw a punch, kind of deal, so they can claim they were on the defense.
Because I don't know. I feel a lot of really good conservative reaction, in my opinion, to it. That they go like, we're not going to rise to them. We're not going to be bad about it. We're not going to stoop as low as they did. You know what I mean? Again, I'm not a conservative. I'm not supporting them because I think I need to be, but like that's what I've seen. Again, the worst thing I've seen them doing is advocating for Rudy to get fired.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
And also know that Jimmy Kimmel lost like his show. His show's like on like hiatus.
Yeah,
because he mentioned some comments about
because he said conservatives are going to milk it for all it's worth.
Yeah,
which is kind of insane. I mean,
so I'm about to do a controversial take on this. I think Charlie was, from what I've knowing his beliefs and what I've read about him and listening to his podcast and listening to his Jubilee debates, I try to get like a full scope of the guy. I didn't really know him too well. Like, I knew he was Turning Point USA guy, but after this happened, I looked more into him so that I can form more of a solid opinion on the man. He seemed pretty sincere, but I also seemed like, might be fucked up to say, he would be the kind of person that would be okay for his death to push his ideology further. Like, I think he'd be the kind of person that would want to be
a martyr. Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that was the thing I was actually telling everybody when they would talk about it with me when it happened. I said, like, liberals that are celebrating it do not realize the damage you just did. Because
you're trying to basically prove him right.
Because you proved him correct. And if you want somebody to be powerful, you make them permanent. And one way to make them permanent is to make them a martyr.
Yeah, because you basically turn him into a saint.
I mean, if you like, they had so much to say. The things they were pulling off of Charlie Kirk to try and justify it were all his debates and everything, but they didn't prove him himself in such a severe way enough to be a bad person.
He never advocated for, at least from what I could tell, from what I've researched, from what I listened to, there could be some I missed out there.
Well, people are misinterpreting it all. I'm sorry, I'm very annoyed with that. People are saying, like, he had a clip where he said, if we have guns, a few people are going to die every year, and it's just a fact of the matter. And people are using that as evidence of, like, oh, well, you know.
You got what's coming to him.
Yeah, you got what's coming to him.
You're just
I think that is the stupidest argument I've ever heard. I think that is one of the arguments that I hear, and I'm like, if you make that point, you're a moron. Because my flip side, and this is what I'd say to everybody, so AOC is like kind of I don't want to say the Charlie Kirk of the liberals, but she's like, it's still a strong pundit and everything. Huge believer in illegal immigration. You know, I get it, right? If an illegal immigrant came up to her and stabbed her, and somebody was like, oh, well, you know, she advocated for it, she wanted illegal immigrants in the country, I feel like that's akin to what they're saying about Charlie Kirk. You know what I mean?
It'd be dumb on both sides of the fence to say.
Yeah, it's dumb on both sides of the fence, because it's taking a point they were trying to make and making it extreme to justify it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and because I guess the larger point was that conservatives keep ignoring gun violence, or at least they feel like conservatives aren't doing what it takes to solve the gun violence issue. But to me, I think it's more downstream of a bigger problem of why are people picking up the gun in the first place? Like, what is it that's so bad about your life?
We're about to make this a gun debate.
You have to. It's like, what is so bad about your life to where you have to go and take out your violence, or take out how you feel on somebody else?
My thing is, like, who holds the gun? Like, somebody will always hold the gun. Somebody will always hold the gun. Do you want it to be you? Do you want it to be the other guy? Do you want it to be this? Because whoever you give that gun to will be a god amongst men. I mean, it's like, there's a reason when guns came into the world, like other medieval forces started dying out like freaking like crazy. You know what I mean? And so,
yeah, I mean, it's power, right? But exercise of power doesn't necessarily always make things better. And I think this is those cases to where people are focused on, well, if we get rid of guns, it's like, well, I feel like people still find a way to kill each other, if I'm being honest. If it's not guns,
Britain's huge stabbing problem. Britain has have you ever seen the I don't know the actual name of it, but have you ever seen the Angel of Knives?
No.
They made like an angel sculpture out of a bunch of knives taken from like police stations because of how many stabbings have happened in Britain. It's made out of knives.
What the fuck? Jesus. Okay.
You've never seen that?
No.
Can I look it up in the middle of the podcast?
You show it to later because they won't have a clear picture of it. But damn.
Pull it up. I'm gonna make him pull it up. Yeah, you're gonna pull it up now.
But that's the I feel like with human nature, it's like if they really, I mean, the one counter argument to that is just like, well, I mean, I feel like a gun or a rifle can take out many people than one knife assailant.
No, and I get that, but also,
but if people want to commit violence, they're gonna find a way to do it.
Yeah, and here's the other thing is that the more, I don't know, guns are extreme, right? But they are so extreme, I feel like they also prevent people from, what's the word I'm trying to use? They prevent people from fucking around too much.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like a deterrent, right?
It's supposed to be a deterrent, and like, in countries that have a lot of, that don't encourage guns, you know what I mean? And actually have successfully, like, prevented them from being on the streets. I feel like you see a lot more gang strength, you know what I mean? I mean, in Japan, you know, there's the Yakuza, and they're just known, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Japan has one of the strictest gun laws in the world. And I'm not saying, again, it makes it sound like I'm saying that if you get rid of guns, there isn't a benefit. I understand the benefit people are trying to say, but I don't think they realize the trade-offs sometimes that can be underneath it all. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a different kind of price that we'll pay if we remove basic gun rights, essentially.
Yeah.
Some higher or worse powers could manipulate that to their own benefit at the expense of the people.
Well, the other thing is that the government isn't going to get rid of it either. Do you trust the government to not shoot you when they want to?
Ideally, we'd want to put representatives up there that would do that, but I mean, I think that's the whole thing, is that if by the time we get to the conversation of guns, it's almost like we skipped over 3 other conversations that we should have had prior to that. You know what I mean? It's almost like by the time someone ends up in diverse court or something like that, it's like the long for talking has almost come way overdue.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's the conversation that should have been had a while ago. And I think that, I don't want to repeat necessarily a talking point, but I do think it has some merit to where it's like, I think it's a mental health issue to where people are in such bad straits to where they don't even know what to do.
I get why people don't want to go into that issue, though. Because it's kind of like what you said earlier, like, people will always be violent, you know what I mean? People are usually afraid of the caliber of violence that's happening. The school shootings, the mass shootings.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Why is it getting worse? Like, I think from what I've seen from like 2001, school shootings have gotten like 10 times worse at the rates that they're happening.
And the funny thing is that freaking the amount of guns back then, the laws were just ridiculously unstrict. You know what I mean? Loose, for lack of a better word. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like also there is a current state of the world, though, that is getting worse and worse. There is a feeling that nobody can really describe, but everybody's experiencing, that people are becoming less trustworthy with one another.
Yeah.
And ironically, I think it has, oh God, I'm going to sound like an 80-year-old grandpa when I say this. I think it has a lot to do with electronics. I think people are becoming kind of sucked into the internet and obsessed with everybody else's life and what is happening in the world that does not affect them. Not to say that knowing world politics isn't relevant, it is. But when people try and, like...
They make the world's problems into their problems.
Yeah, and when they push the world's prominence into theirs. That's also a way I want to put it, is that, like, you obsess over it. You know what I mean? Yeah,
it consumes your own life to where you can't even focus.
And
you only focus on the negative.
Yeah,
it dictates and drives all your actions.
Oh, and the algorithm. I mean, it's
built that way.
It's built that
way to capture and exploit your attention.
Yeah, I think they proved. At least I had a family member talk about it who plays Marvel Rivals, and Marvel Rivals is apparently. Well, this is what they told me, so I don't know if they did their research or anything, but they say they think Marvel Rivals is, what is it called? Interaction-based. It's like social media. It's not based off of what you like or what's positive to you. It's based off of interaction, like how much you interact with the content, what keeps you going. And so what happens is, they said that they'll get like really bad teams, you know what I mean? Because they'll get angrier, and the algorithm will pick up that if you get angrier, that you stay longer because you want to get a good game in.
So they purposely put you with worse players.
To be fair, that is the most League of Legends comments I've ever heard.
Yeah,
but I do.
So
but I wouldn't
cope with her.
But I wouldn't be surprised if that was true. And the fact that I wouldn't be surprised if that's true, and the fact that I know social media at least works that way.
It's built that way. Outrage culture, or rage baiting, as the new kids like to call it.
Well, also just putting weight on things that don't matter either. I cannot stand.
I think there's some things that happen in the world, they matter, but it's like our effect on it, like being where we are. It's like we're not going to be able to change much.
You didn't let me finish what I was going to say.
Sorry.
I cannot stand when people like go like, well, I want to know what Clarissa's life is doing. Like, no, you don't. No, you don't. You do not care what, you know, like if you care enough about a person, you should message them. If you care enough about somebody, you should talk to them and
yeah,
see how their life is going.
They care if they're doing better than they are.
Yeah, and I feel like that makes it even more miserable.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Is like, I just feel like social media just knocks the shit out of you, man.
That, and also it puts you in echo chambers viewing the stuff that you probably already agree with while not really exposing you to different viewpoints. So therefore you become more, radicalized or entrenched in your beliefs that you already have.
Yeah.
And it creates even more polarization.
Because it's interaction based. And like, let me make it clear, y'all, they don't care about you. They don't care about you. I'm not saying people don't care about you. Somebody always cares about you, but the internet doesn't. They literally are just looking at what you do statistically.
We are the product.
And going, what benefits me, and it'll just play you. You know what I mean? You can. I feel like no matter what vain people say, they're almost always wrong, because I always figure out a way to be like, no, this is how you. Like,
there's always different perspectives that to take into consideration.
How dare you?
But I will say that I think a part of the reason why the internet picked up so much is that there is this kind of growing sense of isolation that's happening among people.
Oh yeah.
To where they're going to these communities to try to find a sense of camaraderie.
I mean,
and to be seen. It's almost like why some people they when they grow up in a bad neighborhood they might join gangs. It's like it's a way to be some part of some kind of social network and gain some kind of social status. It's like their version of on going on the way up.
Yeah.
Some people join these cubes because they don't have anybody else. They don't have good family members. They don't have friends. They don't have the social skills to create those good networks. So they go to online spaces where they feel like there's other people like-minded like them, and they just become more radicalized with their own beliefs. Because all they can do is depend on each other, right? Like a herd mind mentality, and it just reinforces itself. And then these online tribes develop. And I think these last two elections have been almost like the internet, like Gen Z, elections, to where what we see most of the ballot take place online, and that's starting to drive a lot of the wedge in between the two sides, because we can't even see each other's perspective anymore. We don't even want to. We don't want to be in the same room with some of these guys. You even see it on dating apps where it's like, if you vote conservative, you vote Republican, swipe left. Like they didn't.
I'm okay with them saying that.
I feel that's a good red flag to where it's like if you're this almost brain rotted with politics to where you can't even like. I'm just being honest.
You're gonna get a lot of positive interaction off of that clip.
Hey, I'm just keeping it real. I'm just keeping it like if politics are that obsessed with real life to where it's like you can't even. That's the first thing you think of when trying to find a partner. I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah. I mean, I'm also on the side of it where I think, like, if they say that, then I'm like, oh, you're not going to be okay if I have friends that are conservative either. That's my thing, is that, like, if you say that, I also think, like, okay, you're not going to be okay if I say anything conservative.
Like, to me, that feels like you're almost looking for enemies. Like, almost implicitly.
It also...
You're almost looking for someone to try to pick a fight with.
It also kind of reeks of you need to always agree with me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, like...
Kind of controlling behavior off the bat.
Yeah. But I respect it. I honestly respect it. If they say, like, please, if you're conservative, swipe left, it's like, you know what? I don't know. I appreciate it.
Even if they say please, I'm like, I'm glad you're polite about it.
Oh my God. Have you seen some of the people on there? Oh, some people are mean about it.
Yeah. Some people, again, a lot of people are assholes.
And that's fine.
And especially even just like on the left, that's part of my disagreement with what's happening in Charlie Kirk's situation now. So even people on the left that are even almost praising this man's death. They're like, yes, he deserved it, he had it coming, or it's just like, why do we feel bad about someone who's racist, where it's like they just lack all kinds of human empathy in general because things have gotten so politically divided, to where it's almost like, I don't care if you die, kind of thing, which is fucked, because I think you should care about it.
I just think it's just stupid to do what they did, because I don't think they realize, like, you don't shoot the damn messenger. If you shoot the damn messenger, that doesn't create it. Like, they weren't attacking anybody in the system. You know what I mean? I mean, he was a millionaire. I'm not denying that he had money, right? But he did not have money the way, like, CEOs or, like, politicians have money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, and that's, I'm not going to get off the spiritual here, but could that be the case where he wanted to spread more fire?
What do you mean?
Like, I don't know too much about the shooter outside of the fact it's like some like
I thought you meant Charlie Kirk.
Kid. Oh no, I meant like the actual shooter person. Like towards like they.
Oh, you talking about where they say he's MAGA?
No, he's not MAGA.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
Stop. If you believe he's MAGA, please, for the love of God, get your intelligence tested. I cannot stand. They all were like, oh, he's MAGA. And I'm like, how does that make sense?
But I feel like they were saying that before more details about the shooter came out.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. But do you know why they said he was MAGA?
Probably because they're afraid that if it was on the left, then shit's going to get real. Things going to get started, if I had to guess.
Because his dad was MAGA.
Oh, yeah, so they thought
that's literally the only evidence. And it's like, mother, do any of you have parents? Yeah. Are you just carbon copies of your parents? And they're this idea that like, oh, he's MAGA. So he killed Charlie Kirk because I forgot what it was. Like Charlie Kirk, like, or like that the idea was that a conspiracy that he was like a MAGA person, but trying to like throttle the MAGA, like accelerate, and that's such a stupid thought. I'm sorry. That made me. This is my flat earthers, Nick. This is my flat earthers. Like that's such a moronic idea. It's such a little bitch move of like trying to avoid like your group taking any credit for anything. Like you can say he's liberal and still not have the liberal party being like evil. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But they're so afraid of that. They're so afraid of anything like little like that.
Yeah,
it's like,
we are in a very polarized times where it's like, especially something like this big, like killing a political pundit like Charlie Kirk, they're like, this could be a kickstart to something way worse. So part of me understands their fear, but it also worked against itself by, again, blaming the other side immediately before more facts come out.
Yeah.
To where it just adds more fuel to the fire.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to avoid adding more fuel to the fire. They added more fuel to the fire.
But it was also just them dodging responsibility, and like I think that's the thing that pissed me off the most is they were doing it like it was them. And it's such a annoying like dodging of responsibility, lack of information. Be a little bitch about your organization, dude. If you're liberal, own the fact that you're liberal, and some people will still do bad things as liberals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's such a like a.
It's just like learning how to disavow bad actors.
It's such a Catholic church. No, they're just wanting to help the boys move. That it's such a move like that. Where you're just like, are you really that dumb? Are you really that dumb? Are we really not figuring it out here?
They're so afraid of condemning their own side that they'll let them get away with anything.
Yeah, it's just. And they were trying to, and then they also, and I think the thing that upset me too is they were trying to role reversal it. You know what I mean? Well, while like people were still grieving, like they did it like 10 seconds after he murdered them, after he murdered Charlie Kirk. They did it like a day, like not even 24 hours. They were already like, he's MAGA, and it's like, okay, like you get it that wrong, that quick. I actually don't even know if they caught him within 24 hours. I just wondering that, but like they did it pretty quick. They did it really quick.
I feel like they caught him. I think 3 days.
Okay, so but they were just so quick to scramble for it.
Yeah,
that it was just like
because both sides, it's so tense on both sides of the political aisle. People are trying to find ammunition to use against the other side, saying, "Oh, this is your guy," or "This is your fault." Keep trying to place blame for where the country's at right now, not knowing that it takes both hands to stir the pot. There's like both sides have worked collectively to make sure.
Does it take both hands to stir a pot?
Yes. The way I stir.
I'm being a dick. I'm sorry.
Yes. But I mean, that's my point is that both the left and right have taken sides and done extreme things on both sides of the fence to get to where we are today.
I mean, what have conservatives been doing in this react? That's the thing is I thought, and I'm not going to deny, I thought when this happened, oh shit, like people are about to be hunted. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the conservatives haven't really been doing that. I'll be honest. I've been surprised.
It's only been a week.
It has only been a week. I will say that.
I don't know what kind of shit they're playing.
I was like,
I don't know what like subhuman Reddit groups. Like, all right, guys. It's like you guys read. You see like the Batman with like the Riddler, where he's like, all right, guys, thank you guys for your contributions. You know, make sure you bring your snacks and your AKs for the big day. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like I don't know what kind of fucking. I hope that that's not the case. But it might be one of those things where they could just be biding their time until they find a good opportunity to do something. I don't know. I don't know what kind of dominoes have been knocked over to set any events that might.
Yeah, but and I think that's the thing that's the future. And that's the thing. It's like, oh god, It was a really bad idea to shoot Charlie Kirk. It was such a bad idea to shoot Charlie Kirk. You shot...
Unless it was, again, someone wanted the bad idea to happen because they wanted some kind of civil war to transpire. Like, they wanted the anarchy or the carnage, so they did it on purpose.
Yeah, but you killed nobody in who had specifically the reins, in my opinion. Like, Charlie Kirk... I mean, you could argue...
Why it was effective.
You could argue that he was ideologically like entrenched. You know what I mean?
Very much so. Yeah.
But I think
that's the thing. If they would have shot a typical like conservative Republican, like anyone outside of Trump, if they would have shot anyone Republican on the main stage outside of Trump, most people probably be like, politician, scumbag, who cares, kind of deal. Not me, but most people. I think they targeted Charlie Kirk on purpose because they saw him as a man of the conservative people. They wanted to hit where it hurt the most.
I guess.
And I feel like if they did some political dude, no one would have fucking cared.
But like a lot of moderates I've seen now have been like, oh, I'm no longer with liberals. Like they'll stay moderate, but they're like, I'm no longer associating myself.
Yeah. So I mean, wherever the kid's reasoning for why he did what he did, which I think he just hated Charlie Kirk. I don't think you understand the ramifications of hurting the integrity of the American people like he did. Like all he did is throw a match on really just pour more gasoline on the fire. And I feel like that we're going to see...
Well, he also proved his point about liberals being violent. I mean, Charlie Kirk was pretty... I mean, I don't know if that was a viewpoint of Charlie Kirk's, but I feel like one of his points was like...
I think it's a viewpoint for a lot of mainstream conservatives.
A lot of mainstream conservatives have the viewpoint that the liberals are trying to take away your rights and they're trying to be evil and they're trying to, kill people. And literally they did all those three things.
In the defense of that.
And the thing about it is that they made it so much worse and they celebrated it so quickly because it was just like, okay... So, like, we're advocating for this in that way. It makes it seem more planned. And
here's what I'm going to say on the other side of the fence. From what I've researched, what I looked into, especially in regards to someone's beliefs, in regards to, like, give an example of Charlie Kirk's belief, and I read this over twice to make sure I understood it. He thought that the Civil Rights Act of 1964, or the one that, gave black people, basically the full civil rights they were supposed to have, he thought that was a setback for the American people and also for the black community as well.
Okay.
And trying to do the best grace of understanding of what he meant by that was that almost like there was less crime or less harm being done to the black community before that time period.
Yes. So I actually know this conservative viewpoint. I've heard it before.
Oh, okay.
It's the idea that before that, there was the black communities and the white communities were thriving separately because they were... I know, I'm not saying I agree with it, but the idea was that the societies were being built within... Not in the idea that the race was the problem, the idea was that the cohesiveness was the problem. The race was not the focal point of that talk, it was the cohesiveness. And the idea was that even though the black communities were doing well, white communities were obviously doing freaking astronomically better because they made the system that way. You know what I mean? So the moment that black people got these rights of making them, more fair and everything, it shifted all the professionals, all the
so they basically they left the black community, all the high earners,
yes,
or professionals. They left the black community to go towards more of the white opportunities to maximize themselves. So that might have been an effect of it. I still don't think that makes it a bad thing to have people be able to...
I don't know if that's the actual viewpoint of Charlie Kirk. I want to make that... Please put a disclaimer here that I do not know 100% what his viewpoint was. I've just heard that viewpoint before from a conservative.
Yeah.
That, the idea was that they...
He also wasn't a fan of MLK either, from my understanding.
I did not like Charlie Kirk before. I dislike him a little bit more now.
Yeah, it's just... I mean, that's the thing I'm trying to get. It's like... A lot of people try to paint this man up as a saint, And at least from my perspective, his relationship with the black community is probably not the best.
And then y'all killed him. And now...
I don't think he liked us that much anyway. But even with that, let's say he even did disrespect people on the basis of his race.
It was such a bad idea.
That does not mean that he deserves to die and that we should be grateful for it. And that should not be a controversial take.
I did not like Charlie Kirk.
Because wishing for someone else to die does not make us better people. Even if the person wishing to die is awful by your own core value system, wishing death upon anybody, I think, is wrong. I think...
Not even just socially.
I'm going to say, I think the death of George Floyd was wrong. I think the death of the Democrat representatives were wrong. I think the death of the CEO was wrong. And I think the death of Charlie Kirk was wrong. I don't think killing people is how we're going to solve anything in this society, period. Violence begets violence. That's it.
Eye for an eye.
There's no further reasonable conversation to be had, because at that point, all that violence seems to achieve, if you do go down that path, is to eradicate another side entirely, i.e. genocide. This is virtually what that is. So it's basically, it sounds like a false economy, but I don't think it is. It's peace and be able to have conversations, or it's genocide, as in one side fully taking out the other. I think logically, those are the two options that you have. And then I guess you have to stay space in between before either of those things happen.
You have this side and you have this side, and a little bit in between.
And
I want to make it clear, I was talking in between, and I apologize. I was trying to be funny and also try to be make a point at the same time. The stuff about race, I did not know that stuff about race about Charlie Kirk. I don't agree with that whatsoever. I just think...
And a lot of people don't. They just see a man that want to have open conversations in college, just have discussions.
Yeah.
They don't... Again, I didn't know about this until I watched the Charlie Kirk show that he had on the internet, which I'm not sure how many people do that.
Yeah, I was more concerned about it tactically for just in general. You know what I mean? If you're talking with somebody, even if you dislike them, but they're kind of a focal point or a talker for the other side, you don't kill that person, because that person, I don't think they understand that they're just going to get a new Charlie Kirk too. That's the other thing.
They're going to get a worse.
They're going to get a worse Charlie Kirk, in my opinion.
Which if they already had, I'm not sure heard the guy his name. I don't even want to say his name. I don't want to give this guy any fucking credibility or any more fans than he fucking deserves. He's a scumbag. But Nick Fuentes, he's basically a white nationalist, strong, super Catholic.
I've heard of him, I think.
To where it's I think if he had it his way, black people wouldn't exist. And
that's ironic.
Him and his followers would say that exactly. I think he kind of has some kind of mixed background. Right?
Kind of a Voldemort type thing, where what did I don't know how much Harry Potter you know. I'm a Harry Potter fan. You know that. Voldemort was big about purebloods, right? Mm-hmm. But he himself was a half-blood.
Yeah, like that. I think something similar to that. Yeah, and I think some people say actually he might be. It's not supposed to be ad hominem attack, but some people might suspect that he might be a closeted homosexual, which is why he's so amped about this stuff, is because part of it might be based in self-hatred. But I'm not here to...
Wow.
I don't know how much about this guy.
Nick hates a guy when his first thing is you might just be a closeted homosexual.
Well, my point being, all his hatred might come from a place of self-hatred, but now it's just coming externalized in his political views, possibly. That's what I'm saying that might come from.
Yeah.
I might have a discussion with the guy someday. I don't like him. But it's one of those things where...
Do you like him? Do you dislike him more than Charlie Kirk?
Hell yeah. I don't think... you can look into this guy. Nick, he's not a good dude.
I don't think he's a good... I trust your opinion very much.
Capacity. He's just not a good person. But here's the thing.
I just love these mini rage moments you have.
Yeah, because there's some things I get really... Yeah.
Is it Nick Fuentes and flat earthers, or is he below the flat earthers?
I hate more than flat earthers. Because at least flat earthers have the capability of being decent people.
But then it's racist above that, right?
Point. Nick Fuentes is somebody that is a snake oil salesman, to where he does these long talks. He sounds very charismatic, kind of like... I don't want to say so much of Donald Trump type, because even Donald Trump does not hate people or certain color people as much as Nick Fuentes does. So I don't really want to lump him in the same category. But he has that same kind of sales, kind of charismatic thing that kind of lowers your guard. But then if he and his people get what he wants and they get in power, I think there's going to be some actual like eradication stuff going on. Like, these people are trying to bring back blame like on Jewish people and stuff like that. Like, they're trying to bring back like some neo-Nazi shit.
That's some dumb shit right there.
Yeah, but here's the thing: some people are starting to go his direction because he's being a lot more vocal on things like immigration, a lot more conservative talking points. He's trying to make himself and make his views more palatable to seep into the mainstream. To kind of almost take over the vacuum that Charlie Kirk has left behind.
Did he come by a bunch of money somehow? I think he's like.
I have no idea.
I was spoken to about like certain people that were powerful and
it might be because again I hate to say it, I think he's becoming more influential, especially as more polarized as we've gotten and more lost young men, especially lost alienated white men have gotten to where they're just like they're trying to find a home and they see this guy saying like, hey, I'm fighting for you. And it's all these other like Negro stuff like out here that's kind of fucking shit up. So you might as well come on my side and we'll kind of face this thing to get like I think he's recruiting ranks, dude. And this.
I mean, I would hope my fellow white men are better than that.
I would. That's the thing, dude. Like again, kind of going to come back to the gang thing. If people are feeling lost and alienated and they really feel like something was done wrong to them, because I do think there's been an element of like just shitting on white guys for a while. Which is, I mean, discrimination no matter which way it goes. You shouldn't discriminate against anybody. But I feel like it's been happening to a certain subgroup of men, especially young men, for a while, that are starting to feel lost and alienated. So they're looking for some kind of figurehead to kind of take the power back. And Nick Fuentes sees that, and he's going to manipulate that so he can get in power and push his own more radical viewpoints once he gets up there. Mm-hmm. And this, what happened to Charlie Kirk is almost like his way in to the mainstream, almost. Which is why a lot of conservatives, again, this is going to sound bad, they're using Charlie Kirk's death as a way of like, this is why I have to fight back harder, become more radical, push ideologies even more further to make sure this doesn't happen again. Like they're kind of using it as a platform to push more malicious shit to the front. Not to get all meta and stuff like that, but it's like, this is, I feel like, the direction that the culture war is kind of heading towards, where things are going to get a lot more alt-right feeling. And then the problem is retaliation. The left is going to be like, okay, well now, game on. And then both sides mount into
civil war.
Yes.
Yeah. It's also going to be interesting to see because I feel like there is also a specific gender that is mainstream related to each side.
Yeah. Women on the liberal side, men on the other. That's kind of a controversial thing to say. I feel like most people, at the very least, have an intuitive sense of that. Now, going forward, it's like, and that's why I advocate so much for the men thing, because it's like if we don't teach guys how to be good men, they're gonna follow the bad ones.
But I also feel like there's a lot of. Have you heard of the statement? Delulu is the Salulu.
No,
it's kind of an admittance that where people would tell like. I'm not 100% researched in certain concepts, but from my understanding is that certain people, liberal especially, would be told that their ideology is like delusional the way because a lot of people see it as like economically incapable or
not feasible
not feasible.
Yeah.
So that was their funny way of saying the delusion is the solution. That even if it would cause problems, it's better to be delusional and supportive of those issues and those solutions than it is to be supportive of
keep going in the system that they feel like is on its way. There's going
to keep going to the current in the current system or the other side. You know what I mean?
I've talked to people. I mean, we know people that have been more on the extreme side of the liberal fence, to where like they would rather almost. At least I know people. They'd rather just kind of let the world blow up to where it is now and kind of just restart the whole thing. But then my counter argument to that was like, how do you know we just won't get the same order they have now? Like, you just won't reinvent the wheel and just do the exact same path. And plus, how much death and destruction and suffering is going to have to happen to even get to that point. So, don't agree with that.
But what I was trying to say is that I feel like, you're talking about men having to be re-educated to a certain extent. I don't disagree with that. But I also feel like we need to have a conversation with liberals and, if we are comparing, if we're juxtaposing them, women, about certain ideologies not being possible. You know what I mean?
Well, because now this is going to get into realm of psychology. And this is something that also Jordan Peterson talked about stuff too, is that women are naturally more nurturing than men. meaning that as there's toxic masculinity to where we want to be like, you know, bullies and power and like show our dominance, stuff like that, there's also toxic femininity to where you can show compassion, even too much compassion to the point to where they can be manipulated, right? Kind of going back, not to get too religious, but kind of back to the Bible, like with the serpent and everything. The serpent kind of weaponized Eve's compassion in order to manipulate Eve first, and then Eve manipulated the man.
Yeah, but I don't feel like it's like, I don't know. I guess I feel like women and men are closer together than I would like
I think it's like 60-40. I think we're mostly more the same than we are different.
Yeah.
But I think the differences, they still need to be respected, and then they need to be understood, because if they're not, it leads to a lot of societal confusion I think we're experiencing currently.
Well, I think we need to concrete those things down then, you know what I mean?
That's the hard thing. That's the liberal argument towards that not everything's concrete, right? There are very feminine men. There are very masculine women. That does exist on a spectrum inherently. But I think the problem is our definitions suck completely. And I think, for my example, being a man is not necessarily about having a dick or having a bunch of money, or it's like, you know, sleeping with a bunch of women. Mm-hmm. I think being a man is more about the responsibility that you take on and being held accountable for what you do.
Yeah, but I feel like you could treat women that way too. And, you know.
Yeah, look at that. Hence the problem. Yeah, that's the liberal argument. Just like, well, technically women can do that too. Women can do that. I think, again, it sounds controversial, a man must do that. I think that is our...
man, okay.
I think that is our job, basically.
Ooh.
We are built to be the workhorses that keep the world going.
Oh, man, let me check your ratings for a second.
And I'm keeping it real. But I think that's what men have lost, is that sense of duty and responsibility. And without that,
I think everybody's lost that, though.
I think men lose it first, and then women follow suit. To me personally, I genuinely believe that if we can help get young men back on track and make us be worthy of being leaders and actually like worthy of respect, I think that will kind of put the world back in balance.
Oh, I hate that though, because, you know, I feel like a bunch of women just not in agreement with you, not understanding what that meant. You know what I mean? Worthy of respect and everything. I feel like, again, I mean, I've said this before, but I feel like a lot of women want a fantasy. You know what I mean? But I feel like women can be held to the same standard as men, and I don't feel like it's going to be because the idea that men should do it first has the idea that a woman follows a man, and I don't agree with that idea necessarily. I don't think that is the idea that I want to aim for, in my opinion, because I don't feel like it's a healthy.
I think it's similar
for what the modern woman can be and is.
I think it's more akin to like a dance, right? Because we both were dancers, right?
I suppose.
Whose job is it to set the pace in the dance?
In country dancing, which is what we do, it's a man.
Why?
Because he's supposed to be the lead.
Okay.
Country dancing is also based off of Texan culture.
You also need to have
very patriarchal.
But you also need to have a partner that wants to dance with you, right?
Yes.
And the reason why she wants to dance with you is because maybe a good dancer, you treat her with respect. You are a worthy dance partner.
Okay.
Right? You know what you're doing. So I think the important part of being a man is knowing who you are, having an established vision, knowing what it means to treat a woman. I think there are principles of being a man that a lot of young men today aren't following. And because they're not following, it's leading to a lot of isolation and a lot of lack of purpose.
I don't disagree.
Relating to these radical ideologies.
I just feel like there is a spot where women, I feel like, are a lot of the time are kind of becoming disillusioned with like having kids and everything, and they want to focus more on their careers, and I think that's okay. You know what I mean?
I also think some of that comes from a mistrust of us.
I think some of that. I think a considerable amount could come from a distrust of us. You know what I mean?
And why don't they trust us?
But I also, actually, you know what? Let me take that back. I feel like some of it comes from us, right? But I also feel like some of it comes from a sense of independence. Like, maybe the independence from us. The idea is that the system failed, so they no longer trust men to provide. So they are trying to provide for themselves. So a failed system. But I also think that the system failed from the start. You know what I mean? When you try and pigeonhole women into this idea that they can only be like mothers and wives and everything, you take away their personality and everything. So
and I think that's wrong too. But actually, going further back in 1950s traditionalism, which actually isn't real traditionalism, from what I researched, a lot of time back there in the tribes, that women did hold like different positions of power in the society or in the household, right? But even in the household, they had other generations of women in the family with them to help do some of the caretaking or house management stuff. They weren't just by themselves shackled with all the household responsibilities. They had like a whole village basically to back them up. I think so. It's like even our old sense of traditionalism isn't really traditional. Even that's been bastardized.
Yeah, but you understand how that's still bubbling. That's still in a bubble. That's still like putting women in the house and leaving them in the house.
Or they're also leaders in the village and society too. But,
I guess, but like we're in a society now that it's so macro that you gotta either be in a career that puts you in power. There's no villages really. You know what I mean? At least in American society. You know, so it's either.
Man, it's probably a problem.
I think macro societies are ironically very bad. Yes, I think that's one of the reasons I dislike the internet, because it makes a global macro society that makes everybody just lose their damn minds. People rob themselves of the capabilities of like you can find anybody who will support you. You can find any reason for you to be supported online. You know what I mean? Not to mention that people will rob themselves of their capabilities. That they'll make themselves small. You know what I mean? And they don't realize the difference they can make. Like I volunteer at an animal shelter, as I have said a million times. I don't know if you know this about me. But when you're helping a dog out and you're, petting them and everything and playing with them, and you look into their eyes, you understand that the world has changed. And I'm not saying it's for everybody. Some people do it and they don't like it. A lot of people do it and don't like it. But I'm saying that don't rob yourself of your ability to make a difference on a local level in the everyday people of your life, because you're not freaking like, my first thought is like Billie Eilish is like a super famous one, because she makes music that a lot of people relate to, that a lot of people like really preach and everything, that a lot of people have, a lot of people with musicians, they claim, oh, this musician saved my life, you know what I mean? And people, I see people just robbing themselves of, their power. Because they think that since they can't make... Number one, the internet's addicting. And the isolation that you're talking about. Yeah. And then they have these parasocial dynamics with these people that isn't... Even if it isn't addictive, it's
it kind of allows them this sense of feeling important.
Yeah, they can void themselves, you know what I mean? And,
And I think that is... part of it towards, I think you put it beautifully, is that you don't have to be a mega celebrity or a huge politician or stuff like that to be important and to make a difference. And you'd be surprised how much young men don't hear that message, to where they just feel like they're not enough.
Bruh, okay, y'all, freaking Boys and Girls Club, Habitat for Humanity, your local animal shelter, your local food bank or whatever, just volunteer at one of those places, man, and I don't know, for me, that's what made a difference. I mean, I volunteer at the animal shelter. My main focus is the animal shelter, but if you want to be a guy who wants to make a difference and you don't really like animals, I mean, okay. Habitat for Humanity, homeless shelters, food shelters, food banks, whatever.
I think a big part of masculinity is that we were built to sacrifice. To make sacrifices, basically. I think that's why some people even glorify, dying in a war or something, or every man dreams of being the last man standing, kind of thing, that valiant thing. There's something that speaks to us in that spiritually, to where it's we want to be the one that other people can rely on. Or at least I feel like this in myself. I want to be the one other people can rely on to help move forward further, even if that means if I have to take the L for somebody. Mm-hmm. I think that part of that is being a man is that sacrificial nature. So a lot of men, they don't really sacrifice for anything outside their own.
Well, I feel like they a lot of them don't have a vision of what they want to sacrifice for.
So something
we are
responsible for.
We are in a society that is values, above all else, capability and power and greed to an extent. We don't make it worth being kind. We don't incentivize it. People can argue all day and damn night that we incentivize being or kind, but what they really mean is charismatic. Like pure kindness does not get rewarded. It doesn't, because you have to be, because like you can even think about it in the simplest of terms. If you are a taker and I'm a giver, and we both have, one coin, and I give you a coin, now you have 2 coins, and now I have nothing, and it is benefiting you. And I feel like it's everybody's fault. It's pissing me off. Because a lot of people, everybody says it, but nobody does anything to fix it. You know what I mean? Again, everybody talks about how animal shelters need help, but nobody wants to go to them.
Because to fix it takes sacrifice.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people, they don't sacrifice, they feel like they don't get anything out of the deal.
Yeah, that's what I hate. Yeah. Is like how can you look at yourself in the mirror and say you're making a difference when you're not doing shit? You know what I mean?
Hence virtue signaling on social media.
like I don't know. I remember one time people ask me every once in a while, like they'll be like, I'm coding for the animal shelter to a certain extent. I'm coding little things here and there, and they'll be like, why don't you make them pay you for it? And I'm like, that's missing the point. You know what I mean? I don't know. Why don't you offer it as a service? I don't want to do that. I don't know.
If I could take a stab at it, that would take away from the meaningfulness behind the action.
Yeah, I mean, the only way I can envision myself ever doing it for money is if I was able to actually make a living off of that, and then I could because there's a bunch of animal shelter software that's garbage. They make it and it's garbage, and then shelters pay for garbage freaking shelter software. Yeah, it makes me upset. But then I could help a lot more shelters because I could make it cheaper or make it better and actually give a shit about it instead of being some stupid ass software company that's like, oh well, we'll help every once in a while.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know.
It goes down to what you want to sacrifice, right?
Yeah, but just even being nice to people. There is something I really like to do where I'll if there's a cashier or something at a Walmart or something. So every once in a while I'll be looking at the candy section or something. I'll be like, which one do you recommend? And they'll be like, oh, I'll recommend the Snickers or something. Everybody has their own individual preference. I'll be like, okay, I'll try it out, and I'll buy it, and then I'll just give it to them and leave. With my stuff, obviously. I'm not like some creeper that's just buying candy and leaving, you know what I mean? But, I'll do it, I'll, buy, I remember the last time I did, I think I bought, 2 umbrellas, and, the guy...
And you just feel like doing that?
Yeah.
That's crazy. I never had an inkling once in my entire life.
I've never thought to do it until I saw somebody do it online, and I was like, I like that shit. So I was like, I'll do it.
How long have you been doing it for?
About a year or 2.
That's cool. I'm not gonna do that now. But
oh wow! Oh my god! After the conversation we just had,
I'm like, man, that's cool. That's crazy. I'm not gonna do that. But I respect the fact that you're doing that.
I think people don't understand how much you can pivot somebody's life with something kind.
One small act of random kindness.
Well, yeah. I mean, I remember this past storm. I don't know. And I just feel... Again, I feel like I'm... We talked about this earlier, but I feel like I'm kind of hyper-empathetic. I feel like I feel stuff really strongly. And so, during... You remember that raining, 2 weeks ago, maybe? That it was just pissing rain. It was just downpour. It was a weekend. But I remember I was driving, and as I was driving, I was at an intersection waiting, and a woman just ran across, and I think she might have been homeless, she might have been, but because she had one of those kitty backpacks and everything, and, you know, there were other indicators, but I don't want to be rude to her. She seemed like a person who was just running in the rain. And so I pulled into the parking lot, and I was like, hey, and I just handed her the umbrella. I just said, take it. And she just keep it. And she went off, and she said thank you and everything. And then as I drove off, I saw her stop running and actually have the umbrella and actually be able to walk and everything. And I don't know, it feels good to be able to help people out. It feels good to, like, again, like, when I take dogs out at the shelter, to see it in their eyes that this is what they've been waiting for all day. Like, all week, sometimes. When I get a dog adopted and I see, like, a family, like, thank me for, like, my help and everything, I want to do more Habitat for Humanity. If I could just be on time, and they start at 7 in the morning.
That's painful, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. You know, I just like helping, because I feel like, and that's the other thing I have to acknowledge, and I think that's hard for me to acknowledge, is that other people don't feel the same way I do.
Yeah, I do. Like, that is so kick-ass. You know what I mean? That is awesome. Because we feel like a dick. You realize, whereas I do. I have
well, it's like, what
similar to that.
What world do you want to create? And you have to ask yourself a question. What world do you want to create? What do you want the world to be? What world do you want to create? And are you willing to do it for nothing? You know what I mean? And that's the thing that a lot of people have a problem with at the end, that last one.
You took extra man's message to heart. You're
like, what?
Nah, you're a punk rocker.
I don't know how punk rock. I'm not like, hell yeah. But like...
Kindness is a new punk rock.
Yeah, and like... I don't know, it's... I mean, I'm not a freaking saint or anything. I just try. Yeah. But I try to do what I can.
You actively try your best.
Oh yeah. I mean, what are you fighting for if you're not trying your best?
A lot of men don't.
Well, I feel like I don't know. Again, I encourage people that a lot of men especially, just go take a dog out. It's, I don't know.
Or just try your best to make a difference where you can. Really. No matter how little, even that you think it is, it might mean more than you think. You never know unless you do the action and see what the outcome would be.
What is it? Great society. So that society grows great when men plant the seeds of trees they know which they will never sit in the shade of.
Oh, yeah.
I butchered that quote.
I get what you're saying. Being willing to cultivate a future that they may never get to experience themselves. But
yeah, I hate that the return of that, which is like hard men make easy times.
Strong men create.
Yeah, I hate that.
Easy times create weak men. Weak men create hard times.
Hard times create hard men. I hate that statement so much.
What do you hate about it?
I feel like it's inaccurate in a lot of ways. Of it kind of is the idea that we can never learn from our mistakes as a society. I feel like there's
like about to head to Civil War 2.0, so that might be accurate. I don't fucking know.
But it's a different Civil War too.
Is it?
I mean, compared to are we comparing to the actual American Civil War that happened, like between the North and the South?
Both sides really believe they're right.
Well, I hope we're not arguing over racism and shit in this new Civil War.
It's not necessarily racism. Some people would say, like, women's rights or, trans people's rights. Or they would say over the integrity of a nuclear family or old traditional American values. I mean, it was a big...
Yeah.
Big deal then. Back then, it was a big deal. That's not. But I don't completely disagree with the phrase because I feel like there is some truth in that. To where if we don't remember the lessons of our past, we will be doomed to repeat it, to learn again.
Yeah, but
hence why we have history to learn from that.
Yeah, but self-fulfilling prophecies are spoken as rhythms in everybody's head.
I think we can't create a path of our own self-destruction if we're not. But I think it also comes down to a conscious awareness of where we're going.
Yeah, but I feel like if we, if we don't focus on trying to make it better, then we won't focus on anything else but driving ourselves to the ground.
Yeah. Focus on making it better, but also not disrespecting what took place in the past. I think it comes down to balance.
Yeah, but like I feel like that whole hard men thing, I feel like it's just like one of those stupid like old people things where they're like you know, back in the day we used to be better. You know what I mean?
So this might actually disagree between us. I do believe that men were of stronger conviction probably I'd say about 40 years ago.
4 years?
40.
Oh. I was about to be like, you're not really jumping there, buddy. 40?
Yeah, that's when you said 1980.
You mean men had more of a strong conviction when their minimum wage job could pay for a house and a whole family, and they could easily have kids and everything?
When they were empowered to really actually be a man. Yeah.
I think if you put a man from the 1980s, I guess, if we went 40 around, and you put them in this modern era, they would suffer just as much as they would. Oh, yeah. You kidding me? Oh, yeah. I mean, they're like a lot of...
I argue even in that context, they may have actually had more of the resilience to deal with it than we do.
I guess, but there was also a lot of, I think, things going on behind the scenes that, like, I don't think people understand fully. Like, men were allowed to do a lot more terrible things and got away with a lot more terrible things because they were taught to be emotionally immature. Because it was tolerated.
Emotionally repressed, emotionally unavailable.
Yeah, so what is better, the man who struggles and struggles openly, or the man who struggles and hides it?
Well, I think that's the thing, is that I think this is the evolution of masculinity, right? I think masculinity was more useful back then because it got a lot more accomplished than it does now. But it was at the expense of the man's happiness, his life expectancy, and the happiness of the overall family, I think. The men never knew peace. Now, I think we're a lot more in touch with our emotions. I think it's a great thing. But also, they control us a lot more. And we don't know how to lead ourselves in our own lives, let alone how we'll be able to lead a family.
Yeah, but my response to that is we're evolving over time.
And that's what I'm saying. So, right now, what we need to learn how to do is integrate the two paths, where it's like we can learn how to be strong and compassionate, to be strong and give a shit, to be strong and show love and affection as an integrated man should.
And I feel like women are integrated into that as well. And we can hold them accountable the same way we can hold men accountable with respect.
Have you tried doing that?
Oh my god.
Well, that works out for it.
Oh my gosh. But like that's the thing, is that like you don't feel like that perspective has like underlying tones in it though? Like the idea that holding a woman accountable... Again, this might be... Is this too much for the podcast?
It's not.
Okay, we're keeping it real. I don't know. I feel like when you say that, the inverse is true as well. When people say like, oh, well, you don't need to hold women as accountable for this, right? I feel like that has the inverse truth of also like, you don't believe the opinion would matter as relevantly.
Maybe the opinion would matter as well.
Because you would believe that their opinion would be... Because if you take away their accountability, if you allow them to have less accountability...
Oh, like infantilizing them, kind of.
Infantilizing them, yes. That's a good word.
Okay.
It's like what is it? Soft racism. You know what I mean? Where instead of being like... I don't want to say a statement.
But I see, like, almost like they're too dumb to take care of themselves, so we have to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think with women it's a little bit different because women, again, they're more... It's going to sound terrible. They're more emotionally inclined than men. Like psychologically speaking, they are built. I agree,
but I feel like we could reach a point where we can reach an area where we can speak to both men and women almost in the same way.
I think it has to be slightly different. I think the effectiveness of the message can be the same.
I think I think the most effective, like if we're talking most effectivity, I don't disagree in the sense that like they would be different, right?
Yeah.
But in general, oh yeah, I think you can get to an area where you can talk about men and women and everything.
This again is gonna sound terrible.
You're just giving them all the clips and everything. I told you, you wanted to be real. I 100%.
The best clips you can get right here.
Oh my god, Nick!
He had a conversation with a room full of guys, right? We usually don't pull our punches. We can say raunchy shit or fucked up shit or make fun of each other and poke at each other. It's like we don't have to like beat around the bush a lot of times because we know that in our best faith. Like even the core we did stuff like that too. Like it's the same difference where it's just guys just again toxically saying being guys kind of deal. As soon as a woman comes to that environment, it's like we kind of have to dial back our language, use a little bit more euphemisms, be a little bit more aware of how we might come across than if we were talking to like a guy.
I don't necessarily disagree.
Even with my male therapist, I had a female therapist and a male therapist, and I'm just saying, I feel like I could be a lot more straightforward with a male therapist. And he's like, hey, I'm also a dude. I get it.
I mean, I don't point to you. I don't disagree that men speak very differently and cognizant, but I also feel like that's because we don't allow, like, I don't know.
If I may. I think it's because we're more concerned about meeting the objective and getting that accomplished.
The fucked up shit some men say in the presence of other men is not about the objective.
Or it's like, yeah, I mean, we're concerned more about getting to the goal of the conversation. Like, even when we talk about problems, with that, we're usually talking about solutions, right? How often do we just talk about fucking feelings and with no solutions to back it up? That doesn't happen with guys.
I feel like it does sometimes.
Not very often. We're very solution oriented. That's how we're built. It's to solve solutions for our community, for the village, for the family, right? To make sure that we're protected, to make sure we're safe. We always have to have our eye on the ball or tracking the predator. It's like we're always on. We're always active.
I don't disagree, but I don't feel like I don't know. I feel like there is a place where women can be to an extent, but I understand the idea that like men do speak very differently and we remain very cognizant of how we speak, especially around women and everything.
Because you know how they'll take things, they'll take the ball and run with it all the way to the end zone to where it's like, that's not what I said. But she's like, but that's how you felt. We've been in this conversation. And it's just, I think we're wired differently because we're wired to solve different problems. I think the women, they want social cohesion. They want the tribe to get along, so to speak.
I mean, it could also be related to society's expectations of women and men, though. You know what I mean?
Well,
women are expected to be more proper than men. Men are expected to be crass and more objective-based.
So it's kind of like the chicken or the egg argument, right? Did the social conventions come first, and then our psychologists followed suit, or did psychology come first, and then our society?
I mean, I've met some crass women. You know what I mean?
They exist. I some of them in my family. I know. Some of them in my family. I'm well aware. Yeah. But is that the norm, though?
But that's the question. It's like, is. But I also understand women. Sometimes men say some stuff, and you're like,
yeah, we're fucked up, guys. We should be more emotionally cognizant of some of the bullshit that we say. We should care about other people's feelings. Some of our shit, we're just like, hey, fatty, get on. We'll just completely ignore how someone feels for the purpose of the goal, which is terrible. Because especially if you want to build long-term relationships or have a team, have any sort of solidarity amongst people, you can't be assholes to each other all the time. I think the whole man and women thing, we're meant to balance each other out.
It's going to be interesting to see how I don't know. Because I sound like a total fucking feministic writer here. I'm just...
Yeah, because I think when we had these conversations, I agree with what you're saying, because there are people out there like Nick Fuentes, for example, or a lot of the Red Pill or Andrew Tate types that will take this message and be like, yeah, this is why we need to... Like, you know what I mean? Like, they'll take...
Put him back in the kitchen type shit?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's hard to have a nuanced conversation nowadays, but it's important because in order to stay away from the extremes, we have to be willing to look at the nuance. And this is the hard part about it, is that there are differences between the sexes, but not enough to where we treat one another as second-class citizens. Of course not. We're both equally valuable in society, but I believe that we fundamentally have some different strengths and weaknesses to balance each other.
Yeah, but I don't disagree with that, but I feel like I just feel like the overlap is a lot more substantial than we think it might be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Instead of the what is it, the bell curves being like this far apart, I think they're like overlapping with men being maybe like a little bit more like on the objective sense.
I think 60-40, even 65-35, I think we more are alike than we are different. But we're also not an androgynous species as well. And I feel like when we act like we are, that's what leads to a lot of societal breakdown that I feel like we're kind of experiencing.
Maybe, but I feel like maybe that's the direction that we can go in a decent way. You know what I mean?
You're saying like the breakdown might be what comes before a better.
Maybe. I mean, I like to think that we can acknowledge that first of all, we have to acknowledge physical differences and maybe the different and emotional shift and everything.
Yeah, come on. Even having that argument, I feel like it's gotten better. I will say that it's gotten substantially better over these last probably 4 or 5 years, to where we can actually even have some over dialogue about it now. Mm-hmm. But even then, there's a stream pushback to where it's like, well, not all women. It's like, yeah, not all. Yes, of course, not all. Nobody says all.
And then you say not all men. They're like, did you just say not all men? You're like, oh my god.
That's we can't even have. We're talking about general patterns. There's always going to be exceptions, and there's probably numerous exceptions. But we're talking about general patterns of behavior between men and women that have been recognized and categorized, like been analyzed for decades now. That because of the afraid of offending, which again kind of goes back to the feminine paradigm of we're afraid to hurt each other, so we'll even, at the expense of the truth, try to avoid doing so. As in the whole, like, we're not taught how not to fat shame, stuff like that anymore, even though literally being overweight is literally killing you and is bad for you. And you should work out for your own sake.
It's also bad for your damn kids and people who love you. Sorry.
And that's the thing. It's like, but then they tried to push to where, like, Sports Illustrated, they have, like, like, a lot of overweight models trying to push narrative where it's okay to be morbidly obese. But as soon as GLP-1s came out, all that went by the wayside. As soon as there was a faster way to lose that weight and avoid hurting people's feelings, you notice that all the fat shaming culture just
GLP-1s?
The weight loss medications.
Oh, like Ozempic?
Yeah, like Ozempic. Like as soon as that came on the market, all that other stuff disappeared.
Ozempic is so dangerous.
It is, but that's the thing. People were trying to change the culture's vision of what beauty was because it was difficult to get down to. It was difficult to face the reality of what you had to do in order to get to that state. So therefore, they just tried to change people's minds about it. They focus on the feeling instead of the facts or the reality of it. That's the problem. That's toxic femininity, to where it's like you care more about trying to spare someone's feelings instead of trying to spare.
But then in that case, I feel like we can pull them more towards masculinity to a certain extent, and we can pull more men of masculinity towards femininity, who are toxic masculinity towards femininity. And again, I don't
have a balance. Yeah,
I feel like there is a place where we can be balanced really well.
I think so too, but that also requires
different approaches.
Yeah.
I don't feel like the approaches are as different as we may think they are, and I don't like to think women as. I think of them as more emotionally inclined, maybe, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that inclined is like a leaning, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Rather than just a huge chunk.
Yeah, I know very, very logical women. A lot of them even smarter than me that I've met. They're very logical, like oriented. And it tells me on the other side. I've seen men that are very emotional and very touching their feminine side.
What are you talking about?
Like, that exists on both sides of the fence. But speaking of general patterns, I feel like men are stronger on the problem-solving solution side. Sometimes to a healthy degree, to where we don't know how to work with people and emotions. Mm-hmm. And then women may have on the toxic compassion side, to where it's like there are some people that you shouldn't give grace to, and that there are certain things where your feelings aside, which do matter, we need to focus on the task at hand, and then we can kind of turn back to the feelings.
Yeah, but again, I feel like those are extremes, and we shouldn't be focusing on the extremes.
I'm trying to understand what would be the extremes being in that scenario I just gave.
You talk about toxic compassion and everything. Like, we're talking about overly emotional women and overly calculative men, which I feel like are the extremes of both of the examples we're talking about.
Yeah, but even then, I feel like even...
are you trying to say they're indicative of a pattern?
Or, yeah, I feel like, this is the general pattern of, like, I feel like we've allowed, dare I say it, more toxic femininity in our culture to make up for the toxic masculinity.
Oh, 100%.
But now we're experiencing the negative effects of toxic femininity.
The amount of toxic femininity I have seen in recent years is insane.
And I think the conservative push is trying to push against that.
Yeah.
Trying to get the world back to balance.
But it's trying to get toxic with toxic, and it's just going to make it all rot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of. Which is why we have to take almost a proactive approach on trying to teach people what it means to be a good man. And I think when we start doing that, I don't know what it means to be a good woman because I'm not a woman. I have no idea. But I think as we work out the masculinity part, I think things will slowly start to set back into balance with the feminine part. But I think it starts with us first. And if we don't change first, then the world's not going to change. So, yeah.
We didn't even talk about Charlie Kirk for most of this. I think we
it's about half and half.
Maybe.
I think the whole thing of Charlie Kirk is indicative of the whole, like, you know.
Yeah, I guess we didn't go too far down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, it's a sign of how polarized things have gotten, how far away from balance I think things have gotten, and I do think it's almost like the shooter was like, "Hey, stop criminalizing or stop dehumanizing people. Therefore, otherwise, I'm going to kill you." Or he did kill you, and it's a toxic compassion to where it's like, if you don't treat people well, I'm gonna hurt you. You know, like that kind of deal, which ironically enough isn't really compassionate at all. But I think it kind of comes to that reason to where it's like, if you're not what we qualify as a good guy or a good person, then you have no right to be in this society. Mm-hmm. And it's like, whoa. I feel like we need to have a deeper conversation about A, what good is. And
there are problems in the system.
Yeah, B, good for who, and C, doesn't necessarily mean we should be good for everybody. And every ideology is out there.
Yeah, I got you.
So, but yeah, I think that was a lot. That's an hour and 20 minutes. That's might be one of the longer episodes that we've had, I feel like. But lots of good conversation. Yeah, I mean, just to kind of close out thoughts, I think what took place last Wednesday was fucking horrific and something that I do not want to see repeated on either side of the political fence, because it is not who we are or who we should be as American people. We should come together. We're all human beings. No one should be killing each other based on a difference of opinion. That's stupid. That's terrible. And it's going to lead to a lot more pain and suffering if we keep going down this path. So I completely disavow it. Political violence on both sides of the fence. Democrats and Republicans. So, yeah. Any last thoughts?
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. Yeah. So, like always, let me know what you think. Keep your eyes out for the next episode, and remember to keep it real. Have a good night.
Peace.